One phone call, one decision, one man lives or disappears forever.
You're 26 years old and you were grading papers, introductory political science. 112 undergraduates who can barely locate Afghanistan on a map. And you were sitting in a faculty office that smells like old coffee and cheaper ambitions, circling the same logical fallacies in red pen for the fourth time this semester. Your dissertation is 2 years from finished. Your advisor thinks you're brilliant and says so in the passive, non-committal way that academics use to avoid putting anything in writing. You speak Farsi because your mother is from Tehran, Arabic because you spent a summer in Oman chasing a thesis argument, and Russian because you are the kind of person who picks up languages the way other people pick up bad habits. You are not unhappy, you are just not anything yet. Then one of your students doesn't show up to his final. Not unusual. What's unusual is that 3 days later, 2 men in business casual clothes knock on your office door during your Thursday afternoon hours and ask if they can close it behind them. They already know your name, your mother's name, your advisor's name, the title of every paper you've published. They know you spent 11 days in Beirut in 2019 for research that your university funded, and that Hezbollah's media wing quoted one of your footnotes in an internal document you were never supposed to see. They slide that document across your desk. It is in Arabic. Your translation is accurate down to the punctuation. They watch your face while you read it. You pass some kind of test you didn't know you were taking. One of them hands you a card with only a phone number on it. He tells you that your student isn't missing. He tells you that your student was never a student. He tells you that everything you think happened in Beirut was also not entirely what it appeared to be. You sit with that for a moment. The papers in front of you suddenly look like artifacts from someone else's life. You call the number the next morning. You start Monday. The first 2 years are not what anyone imagines when they imagine the CIA. There is no field, there is a building in Virginia, and there are cubicles, and there are briefings so heavily redacted that reading them feels like trying to understand a sentence by only its punctuation. You are a targeting analyst at the bottom of a division that does not appear in any publicly available organizational chart, a division referred to internally only by a designator that changes every 18 months for security reasons you aren't cleared to know yet. What you do, in the plainest terms possible, is read. You read intercepts and financial transfer records and signals data and human intelligence reports from assets you will never meet, and you build patterns. You are good at it in the way that feels less like skill and more like compulsion. You see the shape of things before you can articulate why. Your supervisor notices. She is a woman in her late 40s who was in Kabul twice and never talks about it. And when she tells you that your analysis on a particular Iranian procurement network saved a meeting from going badly, she says it the same way your advisor used to say you were brilliant, except that here, the understatement means something. By year 3, you are producing finished intelligence that goes to the National Security Council. You don't know that yet when it happens. You find out because a senior officer mentions it casually, the way people mention things in this building when they want you to understand something without saying it directly. You are now cleared for compartments that didn't exist on your first day. Each new clearance comes with new information and new weight. You learn things about American foreign policy that are not lies exactly, but are such aggressive simplifications of the truth that they function as lies in every way that matters. You do not have a crisis about this. You have a quiet reckoning with it late on a Tuesday, driving home on the Beltway, and then you go to work on Wednesday. That is, you will come to understand, the first real test, not the polygraph, not the background investigation. This moment, in the car, deciding to come back. Everyone in this building has had some version of it. The ones who couldn't survive it are not here. Year 4, you were moved into a unit that handles denied area operations, which is the bureaucratic phrase for doing things in places where the United States officially has no business doing things. Your job is still analytical, but the analysis is now operational, meaning that your assessments don't just inform policy, they shape missions. A man will travel to a city or stay home based on something you write. An asset will be approached or left cold based on your read of a threat environment. You understand the weight of this because you are careful and because the officer who trains you into this work spends the first month making certain you understand that the map is not the territory, that your confidence interval is not a guarantee, and that somewhere at the end of every decision chain is a human being who will act on what you told them. He has the flat, deliberate affect of someone who made a mistake once and reorganized his entire psychology around never making it again. You don't ask what the mistake was. You don't need to. The first time you are wrong in a way that costs something is in year 5. You assess a particular courier network in Lebanon as dormant, based on a pattern of reduced financial activity and a gap in signals interchange. intercepts. You are not wrong because you are careless. You are wrong because the network has intentionally induced that gap. A deception operation you did not model for because the asset reporting you were relying on was compromised in a way that takes another 8 months to fully understand. The operation that proceeds on your assessment loses an asset, not to death, to exposure. But exposure in this context is its own kind of ending. You sit in a conference room with 3 other people and a senior officer who goes through your analysis line by line, not to punish you, but to find the exact point where the logic failed. You find it. It is a single assumption you made about financial behavior that was reasonable and wrong. You rewrite your methodology. You go home. You do not sleep well for several weeks. This is also a test. The ones who cannot absorb this and continue are not useful here. Usefulness, you are learning, is the only moral currency this building trades in. By year 7, you are running analytical teams. You manage 6 people, each of them smarter in some specific way than you are, and your job is less about your own analysis, now more about the architecture of theirs, how the pieces talk to each other, where the blind spots are. You sit in briefings now where the decisions being made have timelines of years, not weeks, and the vocabulary of those briefings is different, less about what is happening, more about what conditions need to exist for something to be possible. You are learning to think in the grammar of power rather than the grammar of events. This is the inflection point that most people don't see from outside. The distance between someone who understands intelligence and someone who produces it strategically is not a difference of knowledge. It is a difference in how you hold time, how far forward you are willing to commit your thinking, how comfortable you are with the irreducible uncertainty at the center of every projection. Year 9. You are now what the division calls a senior operations officer, though your actual function resists that title because the division's work resists all titles. You run sources in 3 countries simultaneously. You manage relationships with liaison services whose interests align with American interests in some circumstances and diverge badly in others. And the skill required is not loyalty management, but something more like orbital mechanics, keeping objects in useful proximity without collision. You are doing this in a period of significant geopolitical instability, which in practice means you are making high-consequence decisions with incomplete information under time pressure on a near-continuous basis. You stop measuring your life in weeks. You start measuring it in operations. There is a particular operation in year 10 that you will think about for the rest of your career. It involves a foreign national who has been reporting to you for 3 years, a man with a wife and 2 children, and a position inside a procurement apparatus that has been funneling dual-use components to a program you are not allowed to name even in this room. He is productive, and he is frightened, and he is running out of time because the security service of his country has begun a sweep that is moving towards him in ways that your technical collection is showing clearly. You have 2 options. You can extract him, which will end his access and burn your network, but will preserve his life, or you can leave him in place for another 60 days while a specific collection window closes, which may allow you to identify 2 more nodes in the network, but which exposes him to a risk that you estimate at roughly 1 in 4 of turning catastrophic. You make the call to extract. You make it in under 2 minutes in a conversation with your chief of station that is calm and specific and utterly bloodless in its language. He is out within 72 hours. The collection window closes without what you needed. Another 6 months of work to rebuild. You go back to the file at 3 a.m. a month later and run the calculation again because you cannot stop yourself. The math comes out the same. You were right. Knowing that you were right does not fully resolve anything. That is also something they do not tell you, that being correct in this work carries its own residue. By year 12, you were operating at a level where you were managing assets and operations across 6 countries, coordinating with the National Counterterrorism Center, and routinely briefing deputy-level officials at agencies whose names you could not have told you knew when you were grading papers. Your division's mandate has expanded twice since you joined it, each expansion adding both capability and exposure. The more the division can do, the more it is asked to do, and the more it is asked to do, the more decisions are made inside it that do not pass through normal oversight channels, not because those channels are being evaded, but because the timelines and classification levels involved make normal oversight structurally impossible. You know this is a problem. You also know that the problem existed before you arrived and will exist after you leave, and that what you can control is the quality of the judgment you bring to your specific slice of it. This is not complacency. It is the specific moral architecture you have built to stay functional inside a system that has no